Hello, my name is Lilia, and today I'd like to talk to you about an article which I've just written a quick summary on, called Farmed Salmon and Farmed Rainbow Trout, Excellent Sources of Vitamin D, published on June the 12th, 2017. The article was actually published by the Fisheries and Aquaculture Journal, and the article is written by Jacobson and Kat Smith. They also conducted the experiment that's talked about in the scientific article. Now, as you can see, this is my little summary. But in the introduction, I am just talking about how fish nowadays is marketed as being full of omega-3 fatty acids and lots of minerals and vitamins that are good for us. But in fact, there have been studies that have shown that there is actually less D vitamin in farmed fish than there is in wild fish. So the whole point of this experiment, done by Jet and Kat, was to either confirm or then deny these allegations that farmed fish has less D vitamin. Now, no one has really clocked onto why the correlation with D vitamin and the amount that are in different fish, but there is a hunch that it's actually down to the amount of fish feed that's given to the fish and how much D vitamin is in the fish feed. But there seems to be no correlation between the amount of fat that's in fish, because D vitamin is a fat soluble vitamin, and the amount of D vitamin in these fish. Requirements. Made a mistake there. Materials and methods. During the experiment, 13 farmed Atlantic salmon and 18 rainbow trout were used, and Atlantic salmon and rainbow trout are actually the two most common farmed fish in the world, so why not start there? The salmon were farmed at Murphy's Irish Seafood in Ireland, and the trout were farmed in Musholm à la Superior in Denmark. The fish were harvested between the ages of 2 and 2.5 years old, and the fish, after they were slaughtered, were gutted, and the fish fillets were prepared for consumption just as they would be if they were going to market. And then they were tested for the amounts of vitamin D3, vitamin D3 25 hydroxy, and also their fat content. And here are the results. So the fish were divided into 5 categories according to weight, and you can see the categories here, and the different amounts of the varying D vitamins and fat were measured, and the results can be seen in table 1. I'm just going to enlarge it a little bit. So table 1 shows the amounts of vitamins, the amount of different vitamin D's and fat measurements within farmed salmon and rainbow trout, and it also includes the standard deviation, which is added on at the end of each number. So, as you can see in the table, in farmed salmon and in farmed rainbow trout, there was a linear correlation between fat and gutted weight. So that means that as the fish got bigger, the more fat it contained. So the heavier the fish, the more fat content. Content of vitamin D3 depended on gutted weight in salmon and vitamin D3 and fat content also. So the more fat, the more vitamin D3, and the heavier the fish, the more vitamin D3. But there was no correlation between fat and gutted weight and vitamin D3 in rainbow trout. And the content of 25-OH-D3 was dependent on gutted weight of salmon and also the fat content. So again, more D5-OH-D3 to a heavier fish and also to a more fat containing fish. But there was also a correlation between 25-OH-D3 in trout, rainbow trout, and gutted weight, but not to fat. So the heavier the fish, the more 25-OH-D3 in trout, but not, it didn't matter how fat the fish was, the 25-OH-D3 didn't correlate to that. So to conclude, there is a relatively low content of vitamin D found in both salmonoid fish species. And the fish can really not be marketed as a good source of vitamin D because there isn't a good source of vitamin D present within the farmed salmonoids. Well, within farmed salmon and within farmed rainbow trout. Martis also has a large database that contains all of the contents of different foods, all of the different minerals and vitamins or proteins and fats and carbohydrates. And you can see within these tables 2, 3 and 4, which I'm about to show you, that the amount of vitamin D found in the farmed salmon and farmed rainbow trout is very low. So the recommended, if you look at these numbers here, the recommended amount of D vitamin for adults is 600. And as you can see in table 2, the that's moved, sorry. Here we go. The amount here is 8, which is tiny compared to the amount that a grown person needs, or the daily recommended amounts. Also here you can see rainbow trout is 13, and then farmed trout in general is 32. So farmed trout is by far the highest, contains the highest amount of D vitamin, then rainbow trout and also farmed salmon, but it's still nothing close to what we need for our daily recommended intake. So ways to improve the amount of D3 vitamin within these fish is to maybe add more D3 vitamin into the fish feed, to maybe increase the amount the fish are eating. That will then go into the meat, and then we will be able to consume more D3 vitamin when we consume the fish. Also, another idea is to administrate vitamin shots alongside general inoculations, which are usually done when the fish is very small. Although this would be quite a pricey way to introduce vitamins into the fish, it would still probably be a positive one, as you could market the fish as being very high in vitamin D. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and see you all next time.